Everyone's constantly asking the same question: when exactly will the flip happen? When will genuine institutional adoption actually begin? When will XRP finally make its move? When will Stellar truly break into the mainstream? Well, buckle up. We're finished with the guesswork because they've just revealed their entire roadmap. Not through hype-filled social posts or community speculation, but through official documents, strategic partnerships, real integrations, and concrete execution. And for the first time, XRP and XLM aren't just supporting players in this narrative. They are the entire narrative. Now it's time to break everything down. Hit that subscribe button if you're prepared to stay ahead of institutions instead of chasing behind them. This pipeline was never focused on price movements. It was always about building the foundation. Let's address the biggest misconception retail investors have been fed: that XRP and XLM are simply digital currencies sitting around waiting to explode. This perspective has completely diverted the market's attention from understanding what these assets truly represent. They're infrastructure tokens designed for an entirely transformed financial ecosystem, essential building blocks of DLT-powered settlement networks. The backbone for CBDCs, international payments, and entry-exit points. But here's the crucial detail most people overlooked: price appreciation doesn't lead the charge. Infrastructure development does, because the genuine worth of these assets isn't determined by speculative cycles or exchange debuts. It's measured by their functionality within systematic frameworks. You wouldn't evaluate internet cables based on Twitter buzz. You'd assess them by the amount of worldwide information they transmit. The same logic applies to XRP and XLM. And throughout the previous 24 months, Ripple and Stellar weren't seeking spotlight attention. They were weaving themselves into the fundamental structure of international finance. Let me explain exactly how. Stellar has strategically partnered with MoneyGram, transforming every retail location across 180-plus nations into cryptocurrency-to-fiat conversion points, all operating on Stellar's infrastructure. Visa through Circle USDC, facilitating direct tokenized dollar access via Stellar for regulatory-compliant stablecoin systems. Tempo in Europe, Careth throughout Africa, Flutterwave in Nigeria, regional liquidity centers that integrate XLM liquidity into local financial networks. And none of this was theoretical. It was designed, negotiated, and implemented. The outcome: a genuinely worldwide tokenized financial access system with XLM positioned at its core. Meanwhile, Ripple executed equally strategic moves. Finastra integrated RippleNet directly into the primary banking software used by 600-plus financial institutions. Swift GPI testing programs, the identical network handling $5 trillion in daily international transactions, evaluated compatibility with XRP settlement protocols. Trianglo Ripple secured a 40% ownership position, establishing itself at the center of APAC liquidity channels. Bank of America and Santander, silent RippleNet partners, awaiting regulatory approval before announcing public collaborations. Hidden Road a calculated entry into institutional prime brokerage services, allowing FX trading desks to settle transactions using XRP as the base asset. All of this occurred while most of crypto was fixated on meme tokens, NFTs, and Layer 1 competition battles. Ripple and Stellar didn't shift toward speculation. They intensified their focus on integration because their ultimate objective wasn't retail investor excitement. It was systematic transformation. And now the infrastructure is operational. The regulatory frameworks are established. The liquidity partnerships are confirmed. What's coming next isn't beta testing. It's full activation. The foundation has been constructed, and the switch isn't something they discuss anymore. It's something they're actually triggering. XRP and XLM development schedules. They've stopped concealing their plans. You don't need to speculate about launch dates anymore. They've explicitly shared everything. This isn't about wishful thinking anymore. It's about transparent execution. We now possess concrete deadlines, legitimate business partnerships, and official licensing developments. And the organizations involved aren't emerging companies. They're the powerhouses of finance and payment processing. Ripple's institutional growth timeline, Q2 2024. Ripple's standard custody acquisition was completed, approved for qualified custodial services. This means Ripple now directly controls regulated custody infrastructure, an essential requirement for bringing major institutional clients on board. Q3 2024. Ripple Liquidity Hub 2 launch. Ripple enhanced its liquidity consolidation service to enable institutions to access not only cryptocurrency markets, but live foreign exchange, tokenized assets, and XRP-supported settlements. Q4 2024 through Q1 2025. Hidden Road's Prime Brokerage Network Integration. Here's the game changer. Hidden Road discreetly supports numerous institutional trading desks operating behind the scenes. Once XRP settlement connects to that infrastructure, it brings Ripple into the same clearing systems used by hedge funds, FX trading platforms, and institutional market makers. Ripple isn't theorizing anymore. It's transforming XRP into an asset that operates where trillions of dollars flow. Stellar Soroban development timeline. Mainnet smart contract deployment is already live. Q2 2024. Soroban now enables enterprise-level smart contracts designed specifically for scalability, regulatory compliance, and minimal transaction costs. Palego Labs SME Partner Integration. Q3 2024. Stellar is expanding beyond DeFi speculation into legitimate financial services. Palego is introducing credit facilities for small and medium businesses through Soroban smart contracts. MoneyGram Stellar native wallet integration. Late 2024. This is the hidden catalyst. Once operational, it enables tokenized dollar transactions, digital cash transfers, and access ramps across 180-plus countries, all through Stellar, not Ethereum, not Solana. Stellar. What does this reveal? The actual timeline isn't about when prices moon, it's about when global infrastructure transitions from testing to full production. And we're entering that production phase right now. Not next year, not during the upcoming bull market. Today. If you're still waiting for some YouTube creator to confirm the rally has started, you've already missed the boat. Because once the charts validate it, institutions have already secured their positions. The architects of this system are now executing their timelines, and the only remaining question is whether you'll position yourself ahead of what's approaching or rush in after the transition begins. The global restructuring is systematic, and they've selected their infrastructure. Everyone's obsessed with price forecasts. Everyone wants to know which candle comes next or when we'll see the next 300% surge. But that's missing the point entirely. The real narrative is about who was chosen to power the global financial system forward. We're not discussing speculation anymore. We're talking about selection, and Ripple and Stellar have already been picked. Let me break this down. First, the BIS Bank for International Settlements. The BIS, commonly known as the Central Bank for Central Banks, has issued a clear directive to the global monetary system: achieve complete CBDC interoperability by 2025. They didn't leave this to chance. They specified the technology, established pilot programs, and Ripple and Stellar were quietly integrated into the testing environment. The IMF isn't making assumptions either. They've been evaluating multi-CBDC systems for years, particularly focusing on compliance, privacy, and cross-border conversions, and which networks consistently appear in those studies. Stellar as a streamlined, rapid, and compliant settlement layer. Ripple for instant FX corridors and tokenized asset clearing. These networks weren't mentioned as concepts. They were deployed in actual IMF testing environments and cited in official publications and expert discussions. Then there's the DCMA Digital Currency Monetary Authority. Their Universal Monetary Unit, a cross-border CBDC infrastructure asset, is being developed to connect with RippleNet and Stellar anchors intentionally. Not Ethereum, not Solana, not Bitcoin. Ripple and Stellar, because this isn't about transaction speed, it's about compliance, reliability, interoperability, and efficiency. Actual implementations are already in progress. MoneyGram is actively deploying tokenized assets through Stellar, establishing XLM as the foundational asset layer for global money transfers. Ripple's ODL on-demand liquidity isn't a proposal. It's being utilized right now by banks and financial service companies in Singapore, the UAE, Brazil, and Latin America to process real transaction volume across borders. And that's what distinguishes XRP and XLM from everything else. This isn't about possibility anymore. This is about existing, live, deeply embedded financial infrastructure. The G20, BIS, IMF, and World Bank understand exactly what they're constructing. They've dedicated the past 3 years discussing the necessity for compatible payment systems, the risks of isolated CBDC environments, the requirement for cross-border liquidity enhancement. Who has the answers? Ripple and Stellar. Not theoretically, not in presentations, in actual code, in production systems, in real partnerships. XRP and XLM are the only digital assets with genuine integration into global FX networks, production-ready compliance infrastructure, verified pilot outcomes with actual central banks and payment processors. And while media attention focuses on Bitcoin ETFs, the framework for a $180 trillion financial transformation is already being constructed. And they're not using joke coins or empty promises. They're using systems capable of settling trillions across borders with built-in compliance. Ripple and Stellar aren't just participants in the conversation. They're integral to the master plan. This explains why XRP and XLM maintain their silence. Until now, you might wonder, why haven't prices reflected all this progress yet? Why hasn't the market responded to the massive banking integrations, or the fact that Ripple and Stellar are now quietly operating global infrastructure? Here's the uncomfortable reality. The system builders never intended for retail investors to front-run this transformation. It wasn't an oversight, it was intentional strategy. They didn't want attention. They wanted positioning, and that's precisely what they achieved. Step 1, suppress the narrative. Ripple faced legal action in December 2020, just as on-demand liquidity started rapid expansion throughout Asia and Latin America. Exchanges removed XRP, pushing retail investors away while institutions quietly onboarded under confidentiality agreements. Stellar's development stayed under the radar, including Soroban's smart contract progress, which was deliberately launched without fanfare. Media attention vanished, no CNBC features, no speculative headlines because that would have alerted retail investors. Step 2, silent accumulation. While you were distracted by meme tokens, AI coins, and ETF excitement, custody regulations evolved. Banks received authorization to hold digital assets. Ripple acquired Medico and Standard Custody, securing compliant institutional-grade infrastructure. Stellar Foundation expanded its holdings and alliances, preparing for production-level deployment. Meanwhile, serious players were accumulating, not to create hype but to integrate. The quiet period wasn't accidental. It was accumulation by those who understood exactly what was approaching. Step 3, activate the system. Now the activation is happening. Ripple prevailed in the SEC lawsuit. XRP is not a security confirmed by federal courts. Soroban is operational on mainnet. Stellar smart contracts are production-ready with minimal fees and compliance-first design. Institutional custody is legally approved. BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan, everyone's advancing into real-world asset tokenization. And suddenly, the silence is ending. XRP was relisted on Coinbase and Kraken. XLM trading volume jumped 300% within 72 hours. BlackRock's tokenized asset department started sourcing on-chain liquidity. Fidelity launched crypto investment funds that include utility tokens, not just Bitcoin and ETH. This isn't a meme coin rally. This is institutional deployment. You weren't supposed to notice until it was too late. This is how systems get replaced quietly, systematically, with complete legal structures established before the masses arrive. You were told XRP and XLM were finished, but they were simply being positioned, not for hype, but for dominance. And now the control phase is almost finished. So when prices begin moving, it's not a breakout. It's an activation, because the only thing more powerful than speculation is deliberate implementation. And that's what Ripple and Stellar accomplished while everyone else was distracted. The opportunity window is shrinking and the transfer is beginning. The market remains unaware. Everyone's watching Bitcoin approach $100K, chasing ETFs, following meme coins. Meanwhile, XRP is integrating into global FX infrastructure. XLM is powering tokenized trade finance. CBDC pilots with Stellar and Ripple are entering phase 2. By the time XRP reaches $5 and XLM hits $1, the transformation is already underway. Not hype, execution. Integration, activation. The distinction between speculation and wealth is timing. And the timeline isn't mysterious anymore. They've revealed their strategy. Now it's about positioning. This isn't financial advice. It's awareness. You're not gambling on a cryptocurrency. You're aligning with the monetary infrastructure of tomorrow. Ripple and Stellar weren't created for hype. They were built to solve real-world trillion-dollar challenges. And now the switch is flipping. The timelines are active. You can be early or you can be left responding. Your decision. Smash that like button and subscribe to Crypto Talk if you want to stay ahead of the institutional money flow. Because when the rails are already laid, the only question is whether you're riding the train or watching it leave the station.